Welcome to the Feminine Wave. Today's episode will be focusing on conscious being, real awareness. Let's talk about personal growth, self help, faith, essence, and spirituality. Today's guest is Beth Rivelli, a motherhood story coach who helps women rewrite the narratives they carry about motherhood. After facing unexpected grief at 42 and immersing herself in the childless, not by choice community, Beth realized that involuntary childlessness often reflects deeper cultural forces. This insight led her to her signature program, Blow Up the Clock, which empowers women, especially career driven ones, to take action on their motherhood journey and redefine someday on their own terms. Before coaching, Beth spent 2 decades in tech, founding a consultancy, teaching at DePaul, and leading strategic projects for Fortune 50 firms. Today, she guides women in reclaiming their stories with clarity and purpose. It's my pleasure to introduce to all of you today Beth Rivelli.
Thanks, Tara. I am so excited to be here and have this conversation with you today. I love the background, by the way, the feminine wave. It's
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I'd light it up. It's too bright, but I'm
hmm
glad you can still see it.
Oh, I can. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and just for everybody watching and listening, Beth and I had a previous conversation, and I was learning so much. I basically begged her to come on today and share her knowledge because I do have to admit, I had some judgment, and I know for me, curiosity is the opposite of judgment. So when I start asking the questions and become curious, I learn so much. So thank you again for being here, Beth.
Thank you. And thank you for being open. Thank you for being willing to learn.
I am learning so many new things.
Mhm. You're riding the wave.
I am riding the wave,
Uh,
exactly. So, in your introduction, I talk about that you are a motherhood story coach. What does that mean?
mhm. Well, interestingly enough, I got that moniker from a previous marketing person that I worked with for a while. She was also a photographer on my website. She did all of my pictures. Um, she came up with this because, I like to think of it this way to help people understand. Have you ever heard of like a money coach? Somebody who helps you through stories you're carrying about abundance or lack, in that area of your life. Consider that I'm doing the same thing when it comes to motherhood. So, what are all the stories that we're carrying? So, if each of us who could possibly be a mom has a motherhood story, if we have a motherhood story, and I'm going to actually say anyone who can be a mom has a motherhood story, let me clarify. I am there to bring a coaching lens to that story in your life.
Hmm. I love just by using the word lens.
Mhm.
I mean, that opens up so much in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you share with us what is a motherhood story?
Yeah. So a motherhood story. So I'm going to tell you from the way that I have defined it. And in all of the work that I've done, in kind of getting my own, what I would consider like downloads in my own meditations and writing time, I came up with this definition that is a little bit different than we might think of it. I think most people think if they hear the word motherhood story, which is why I clarified before, they instantly think you're a mom. But a motherhood story is actually something that we all carry if we are somebody who could have ever been a mother. And so I'm going to explain it this way. My motherhood story began for me when I was 3 years old. when my mother brought my little sister home from the hospital. And I remember inside feeling that excitement of like, I want to hold her. I want to hold her. It's my little sister. So my mother, of course, had said, sit on the couch. She wasn't going to let me hold her. I wasn't even probably big enough to hold her. Like, sit on the couch and put your arms out. And then she put her in my arms. And that for me, I think is like the first moment where I became cognizant of the fact that I could someday be a mom. Not that, of course, I was thinking those exact words inside, but when I look back, I go, that was my first connection with that. Someday I could be a mom. And then what happens over time is we learn different ways of thinking about that concept. We learn what our culture tells us. We learn what our family tells us. We learn what our friends tell us about that. And we gather all these ideas, and those now go into our motherhood story. So there's a starting point, and then we collect data that we put into that motherhood story. So by the time we get to the point where we either decide to become a mom or not become a mom, or if we want to be a mom, we going forward with that concept, like we're going to relate to it with all of that past history. So that is what I mean by a motherhood story. Like, we all have a story around it. And most people think it's related to being a mom, but no, it's not. It's related to your relationship to that concept.
I'm so thinking about my motherhood story right now.
Uh-huh. Yes. What are you thinking?
Well, I didn't like how my mother did it, so I was going to do it very differently, which I did. I
Mm-hmm.
think I didn't do it. I'm not going to go there. I was going to say I could have done better, and it is what it is. And I do have two boys that are grown now, and so what I try to do with them now is kind of clean it up. If I didn't give them something that they would have wanted, or vice versa. Um, and we usually talk about it on Mother's Day because that's usually
Mm-hmm.
when it's in the forefront of my mind. But still, the big thing is I did not teach them to talk about their feelings.
Mm.
And so we're working on that now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I always say the difference, in parents isn't whether or not you did it great. The difference is, are you willing to go back and ask for forgiveness? Are you willing to be open to have the conversation?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I first started the conversation as probably 13 years ago. So,
Mm.
and yeah, there's more to do, and that's okay. And
Hmm.
I really love relating to my sons as adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
I want to go, I want to talk about what you just talked about in terms of the
Absolutely.
framework that I use, because what you are saying that you started 13 years ago, what if you got to back that awareness up before you got to even becoming a mom, before you had a child?
Yeah.
Now, granted, there's only so many things we can learn outside of relationship, right? We have to be in the relationship. You have to actually be a parent to experience the day to day. But we also come with all of that story and, all of the meaning making that we've put into it over the years. And what if you could clear that out as best you could before you actually got there?
Wouldn't that be great?
Well, that's exactly what I'm doing. So that's and
Yay!
yay. And so it's not about what I'm doing isn't about being a mom, really. It's about getting clean and clear on this part of our lives. So I like to think, I had to use my little oval shape I make with my hands, which most people can't see when I'm on the phone with them. But if I consider this as like life, and all around here are all of these doors to different parts of our lives, right? Say career, romantic relationship, children, motherhood. Um, if you also consider, if you walked into each of those rooms, in the background, every single one of those rooms is connected and you can just keep walking around, right? So if something is out in one space, it's going to affect other parts of us. That's that picture of integration in our lives. And what we don't realize, and I've seen it with women who go through my program, we don't realize how much we are carrying from that motherhood story piece into other parts. I have had women say, wow, I didn't realize that this was holding me back in certain ways. Like my relationship is better, my business is better, my work life is better. There are ramifications for actually choosing to do that work.
I'm so loving this, and I really would love to know, how did you come to
Mm.
the point where this is what you decided you wanted to do and what to offer and to work with women? Because it's
Mhm.
like I've never heard anybody talk about this, and not that I know everybody out there, but this is a new concept.
Yeah, it is. And I have done research and I haven't found anybody who's doing exactly what I'm doing. There are people are touching on it, different portions of it, but not with the same concept. I mean, as a package, I guess. So how did I get there? So here's the thing. When I tell people, most people, if I'm meeting you in person and I say that I do this, one of the first things people will usually ask me is, are you a mom? And then there's that piece of like, no, actually, I'm not. And then it's really hard for them to compute in their heads, like, well, this doesn't make any sense. How can you be doing this with women who want to be moms? And believe me, I've asked myself that question many times too. So I can talk later about how I've had to work, how I've worked through that. The thing is that I missed motherhood. I completely, it was something I really wanted. I came from a big family. In fact, I took it for granted that it was going to happen for me. Just you, it's a given, you know. My dad comes from a family of 11. I come from a family of 5. I have tons of cousins. I have lots of aunts and uncles. It's just the pool that I have swam in all of my life. So when I had to face at 42 that I would not have children because my body just decided to shut down, like I wanted a full menopause at 42, which is early. And I was already struggling because I had been divorced at 36. I was in a place where I was trying to figure out, how do I want to find that relationship. I wasn't interested in being a single mom. I didn't even think about it at the time. And I needed that relationship. I needed to find it. And whenever I thought I found it, it didn't work out. There's just so much heartache that I went through, the first 5 years after my divorce. And I was working through a lot of trauma from my divorce as well. So just heaping on so much to work through. And so I ended up missing motherhood. And I just remember that, like, it's hard to describe the wall that you hit because, and it's not a wall that you put up yourself. It's a wall. It's like imagine you're walking down the road and then all of a sudden a wall just falls right in front of you and you can't go any further. That's how it felt. It was like, I'm trapped and I didn't choose this. That was so hard. It took me years to work through the grief of that. They call it childless not by choice. There are different terms, involuntarily childless. I've heard some people say childless by chance. There's so many reasons why this happens for women. So I naturally thought I was going to be working with women like myself. There are other coaches out here who do that. There are a lot of books out there, there are organizations. I was part of one for a long time. And there's a healing process you have to go through. So as I got to the other side of my process and I could be more functional in life and accepting of where I was, I thought, okay, I'm going to coach women like me. I'm going to help them through. And I just remember I'll give you a little bit more of the context because it's kind of fun. It was during the pandemic and I had ended up going to Aruba for 2 weeks, but I ended up staying for 5 months. So during that time, I was sitting in my room. I, I had just started, like gone full time on my business. I was sitting in my room and I'm writing for social media. And as I'm writing, I could just feel, like in spirit, like I could just feel getting these revelations of everything that I'm looking at, everything that I want to do is really addressing a symptom. What's the root cause of this? Why are we here? Why is it that 1 in 5 women in the Western world are childless? Most of them not by choice. I'm not sure how up to date that statistic is. At the time, that was definitely the statistic. And it hit me. I'm like, I want to spend my time. I need to spend my time. And in that moment, I felt called to spend my time looking at what are the reasons we're here? What's going on? So I started doing a lot of interviews with people. I started talking to folks about it. And the more I did, the more I started to uncover certain ways of thinking that our culture propagates, that we've internalized, that causes shame, a lot of shame in women, that causes us to stop, causes us to avoid, causes us to like try to take it, and make it happen. Um, there's lots of ways we respond to that. And so I uncovered certain, like, I would say two main ways of thinking that influence us. The first one is I can't talk about it.
Mm.
That's it. And the second one is it will just happen. And so many women I met, like living under that, it will just happen, the shame they feel
Mm.
over it not just happening for them. Because that's what's supposed to happen. And if it isn't just happening to me because that's what's supposed to happen, I can't find the person, I can't get, or I found the person and now I can't have a baby, like all of these things contribute, all these different circumstances contribute to shame that stems from that thought, right? Like who I
Right.
am and my wholeness and my identity is connected to this. Now, it's also connected to desire. I don't want to completely say that somebody's desire, I mean, their pure desire to have that child can also contribute to a lot of difficult feelings, right? Which is okay. It's part of the natural grieving process that we can go through. And I'm going to get back to the grief thing too, because that's a whole nother topic. But um, as I started to look at that, and I just felt again like a download of the program. I started creating it. I put it in front of some other fellow coaches. I had them look at it, like what did they think of my program? And I got some more inspiration. It came together. And then the first people who ever went through my program were women who were coaches, who were in a place who said, you know what, I live my life on purpose. I think about what I want to create and how I want to live my life. And guess what? I have never thought about this part of my life. So that was like a telling thing for them to go, I need to stop and think about this. So took them through that. And one of the women actually, she has 2 children now out of that. And the freedom that they found, like I love to go back sometimes. I have watched the videos of where they started and where they ended up. Starting in that space of I'm so I have a resistance to things. I feel resentful about the fact that I even have to think about this, that I have to do this work, which goes along too with I've had women say things to me like, I don't want to talk about it or plan it or think about it at all because if I do, it loses all of its magic then. And I'm like, but the women who are doing the work actually find more magic.
I would
But you
think.
yeah, but you can see the resistance that we have around this topic, and the reactions that women have around this topic. We don't feel like we can just fully kind of lean into it, you know, take it on, be with it. It's so deep and there's so much so many identity pieces that we have connected to it as well. So I'll pause there for a second because there's a lot there.
Well, there is, and um, I find it interesting that the women that you've worked with are not wanting to talk about it, and maybe just generally you know, in society,
Mhm.
and which I find interesting. In that, I don't know, for me, I mean, I've been on a spiritual path, a personal development journey for decades, and
Mhm.
uh, like I was talking about earlier, I want to know more. There's so much I don't know what I don't know. And
Hmm.
for them to or for people to shut it down, it's like, well, how do you get to the other side then?
But see, here's the thing. Women like yourself, you're already a mom, you're
Mhm.
past, your children are grown.
True.
Every woman I talk to who is in that space, they look at what I'm doing and go, oh my God, I wish I'd had someone like you when I was younger.
Hmm.
However, there is a mindset for women who are younger. It is harder for them to understand why they need to do this work. It is harder because one, either they're like, if they're in their 20s, they're like, I have plenty of time. I don't need to think about it. And they just brush it off that, even not realizing this work isn't about whether or not you're going to have a child. This work is about how you relate to that. And can you create more freedom in your life by clearing out the messages that you're holding on to? So, yeah.
Can you say, just share a little bit more about what you started to say and then
Mm.
stop?
Just that women, yeah, I lost my train of thought for a second.
It's
Women who are younger struggle with embracing the concept because either they think they go, oh, I have plenty of time. It's just like somebody who's younger goes, I have plenty of life to live. You're invincible. You're never going to die
sure.
mindset. It's a
Hmm.
little bit like that. Like, I have plenty of time. I don't need to think about this. It doesn't matter. And even sometimes women who are in their 30s, even women I've talked to who are kind of desperate, they don't recognize, because there's no paradigm in our world for this conversation, they don't recognize what it can do for them, what the benefit is of actually taking on this work.
So
And
what might
uh-huh,
be a benefit, or however many you would like
mhm,
to share, to doing this work at a younger age?
oh, yeah,
How might I have turned out differently, or whatever? If you can give some kind of example or
yes,
explain more.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I have a whole lot of them. So first, I'm going to start with where you started before, which is, wow, I started 13 years ago to do this work. What if you had thought about it beforehand? How would that have changed what kind of parent you were?
Right.
Right? So
Yes.
that's definitely a benefit. Whether or not you have children, it changes who you are inside. It gives you more of that emotional freedom, and I'm all about emotional freedom. It gives you more of that emotional freedom to operate in your life without the heaviness of the baggage that maybe you're holding. Also, doing the work ahead of time is going to clarify for you, do you want to be a mom? I think there are some people who think they want to be moms who maybe necessarily, maybe they don't really want to, and some maybe they feel pressured. Some people who think they don't want to be moms that maybe do, and some people who totally just know and that's it. But I think so. This gets me off on a whole nother topic. If I start going into here, I don't
No,
want to completely
I
lose my
want you
train
to
of thought.
pull out all the stops. That's why we're here.
Okay, so this is one of the things that I struggle with right now in terms of our culture. And I'm so grateful that we have gotten to the place where women can go and freeze their eggs and plan ahead. But what I've noticed too is that there is this very masculine way of approaching it. So, off the feminine wave thing, there's a very masculine, now that I can do these things, I just need to go freeze my eggs, right? Now that I can do these things, I just need to plan and have enough money. Like, we forget the inside out part of the spiritual part, the piece that really changes our being and how we show up for that in our lives. I actually heard a podcast, I forget who this person is, some well-known person on a podcast talking about how she discovered, that she was infertile and she didn't know that. And she was really pushing people to go get tested. And then on a podcast said, if you can go get your eggs frozen, freeze your eggs, and then don't worry about it for 30 years. I'm like, is that really how we want to approach motherhood? That it's just a thing you do that you put on the side so you can go live your life. That was pretty much the message. And I thought, but that motherhood story is still permeating your life, no matter what you're doing. So
Wow. Yeah. I'm
yeah.
sorry. Go
Yeah,
on.
no, it's okay. It's okay.
I'm hanging on every word, so
So I have a hard time with that because I feel like we've gone from we're powerless, right? Years ago, we lived as women very much in this space of I am powerless. And the only things I could do, I don't know, 60-ish years ago or whatever, were be a teacher, be a nurse, be a mom. You know, we didn't have the choice. Now we have the choice, but the way we're using our choice is like, well, all my life is over here, and that motherhood thing I'm just going to throw over here in this bucket. You know, I'm going to freeze my eggs, and there it is. But the reality is, we're still not living from a space. And I'm going to go back to oh my God, I just forgot her name, the woman who wrote the Feminine Mystique. Um, hmm, anyway,
okay, go on.
she talks about, and now, and I have a story that goes with this too. I've been saying this for years, and then I didn't even know that she had said it in her book because I'd not read her book. And I found out that she said it in her book because I was watching a Mary Tyler Moore documentary on the airplane one day. So, and she quoted Betty Friedan. Thank you. She quoted Betty Friedan, and this is the quote: "We are humans first, and then women, and then we are mothers."
Mm.
Where motherhood is an experience that we get to choose to have in life, it is not our life. But for years, it was women's life. It was our identity. And my personal opinion about this is that because we didn't have many options, being a mom was always the thing that was going to be different than what men could do. It was the one area that men could never touch, right? So this was our thing, which makes sense why it so much became our identity. And now we have those choices, but we're still living that way. We're still living in this slave mindset, in a sense, like oppressed mindset, and not realizing how much more freedom that we could have around this.
I just want to say wow, because I never even thought about any of this that you're talking
Mhm.
about.
Yeah.
Wow. And so what can we do about it? I mean, I know that's what you do,
Yeah. I
but what are
think,
some words of wisdom that you could share with us
mm,
if you're so inclined?
yeah. Get clear on what your soul really wants around this part of your life. However, you do that. I've had some women who I've known who are super spiritual. They didn't need to work with me. I mean, they knew that they knew, and they had their plan, and they lived it, you know. And look at what are the messages that you're carrying in your life. Like, it's very common for women to come in with what you were talking about earlier, about having a bad experience with their own mother, a fear around not wanting to be their mother, like their mother as a parent. And so there's a difference, and I've experienced this in my own life and in the own work that I've done, is there's a difference between choosing, and you've probably heard that phrase, right? Like fake it till you make it, that kind of thing, act as if.
Mhm.
Those are important. I'm not going to say that they're not something you can do, but it's just a part of the picture. And I always say healing happens from the outside in and the inside out. It's both of those at the same time coming together. And so the inside out piece, actually, when you do that work at a deep level, it frees you up almost as if the thing that was there before is gone. It's like where you can choose differently because you're not being pulled down by that weight anymore. And that's what I desire for people. Like, I want them to have that around this part of their lives. Women who have missed motherhood, like myself, we have to figure that out.
Right.
We have to. But what if more of us figured that out? What if more of us found that freedom without having to miss motherhood to find it?
You know, again, I am so glad we're having this conversation because I know I've said hopefully I'm not beating a dead horse. It's like I never thought about it, and it just makes so much
Mm,
sense, and I realize that this is your focus, and other people have other there's we're so complex, we're so complicated and complex,
Mhm. Mhm.
to have all these different, whether it is a motherhood story or a sibling story or whatever,
Mhm.
and that to address it. I love the word what you said about, and I don't remember exact words you said, but it's like, just kind of goes away. And I guess for me, what I take that to means I'm no longer fighting it. I'm not
Yes.
resisting
Yeah.
it, right? It's
Yes.
almost
Yeah.
integrated into me
Yes.
now, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Integration is exactly the word. That is exactly what happens, in the different kinds of deep therapy I've done. It's exactly what happens. Like it gets integrated into your adult self, right? We have these parts of ourselves that get stuck and around these stories that we carry that are so deep. And when we get that all loosened up and it gets integrated back into our self, our adult self, now as adults, we get to make those choices. We don't have the little kid voice going, "Ah, da, da," and it's different. It's different. I've had therapy sessions. I used to do a kind of therapy called DNMS. And actually, this is one of the things that I have on my website is I have a whole healing modalities section where I talk about different ways of like different healing modalities that I've used in my life and the effect. I educate people on what they are and what my experience was. And one of them was DNMS, which stands for Developmental Needs Meeting Strategy. And it is a way of doing therapy that completely like takes the myth in a sense away from, and shines the light of truth on it in a sense, but integrates it. And for me, it was a very deeply spiritual, present way of doing the work. And when I did that, like I could walk out of some sessions and be like, I am never going to have to deal with that thing again. Like,
Mm.
just shift me so much. That's what I want for women. That's what I want them to have is that. And I want them to have it around their motherhood story.
Beautiful. I'd like to take us just make a little sidestep here,
Mhm.
and talk about our culture a little more.
Mhm.
And I guess you teach or share with your clients about a culture on the clearing out process, so to speak. And I might be saying it all wrong, so please correct me. Um, so what are these narratives that, you see women carrying? And maybe even touch on how it shapes their experience and how working with you might, then by
Mhm.
this integration, what
Mhm.
what might they then experience at that point?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So I'm gonna reiterate some of the things I've mentioned, and we'll start with that, which is the messages that I'm not allowed to talk about it. And so I think bringing that to the forefront, creating space for people to do that, like for them to face that and not be stuck in having to only dialogue it inside. So that's the first thing. The other thing that really looking at this idea that there might be something wrong with them
Mm.
because it's not happening the way that they had imagined, putting that out there. Another one would be I'm so scared. I'm not going to be a good mom because I didn't have an example of that. I'm scared I'm going to be mean to my children. That's an important one.
Mhm.
Inside, I'm really scared that I'm making the wrong choice
Mm.
because once I make that choice, I can't send it back. I'm not
Mhm.
going to send a child back. It's a permanent choice. So there's that. So it's like trusting ourselves. I can't trust myself to make the right choice for myself is a big one. There's other myths we hold on to, like if I just make that decision, I'm going to know that I know that I know. I make that decision and it's going to be perfect from that point forward. you know? Yeah. And said I want before I wanted to go back to the concept of grief. No
Yes.
matter what you choose to either not be a mom or to be a mom, you're going to have grief.
Mhm.
If you become a mom, you're grieving that you've lost the life you used to have. Your life shifts. And now there's this person in it all the time. If you choose not to be a mom, you grieve that you're not going to experience that in your life. So not everybody does. Some people just know and they're like fine with it, supposedly. I don't know inside their hearts and heads, but
Yeah.
that's what I hear.
Yeah.
But there's still a grief, there's just still a thing that you'll never know or a way that you'll never be in culture. My own personal things that I struggled with, my big default messages and myths, I already struggled with this sense of like, I don't belong in the world. I don't have a place. Oh, then not being able to be a mom just threw me so much because that for me was just our culture says that if I'm a mom, now I belong, now I have value, now I have a place. If I'm not a mom, I don't bring value. And our culture will say that. There are people who are out there literally saying that. Like that is who we are meant to be, right? Is to be moms. And our value is so beyond that. We're humans just like any man is a human. We're all humans. And our value is in that. Our value is in who we are as spirits, fundamentally. And but I struggled. I so struggled with that sense of like belonging. And I struggled so much already in my life with the how do I make friends? How do I be with people? And for me, it felt like, God, if I had kids, it'd be so much easier. I would listen to my sisters and like, oh, how do you know them? Oh, where our kids go to school together. Our kids do this. It's just this natural way to connect with people. And when you're alone, I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I was alone for 18 years before I had the partner I live with now. And so much loneliness, so much dealing with the anxiety around the loneliness. And I think sometimes we don't even realize what's going on underneath. Like I stayed in my marriage because I was scared to be alone. I didn't know that. It took me being alone and going through the anxiety of that to realize it. So I bring that back to some of the women I've talked to. I've had like a couple of women say, well, I just feel like if I do this mom thing, that's what's going to give my life purpose. That's what's going to make me feel like I'm fulfilled in life. So there's a lot of myths and things that we carry.
So, how do you or do you think, our culture is ready for this message that you're spreading?
Such a good question. And I ask myself that often because I think we are not exactly ready. I think some people are. The people who have done my program, I would call the early adopters because they are people who are deep. They're people who are doing the work. They're people who are spiritual and they recognize the need in their own life. Most of our culture doesn't live like that. And even if they do, really prioritizing this or like, why should I prioritize this? Unless they're in a place where they're really feeling the need. They're usually women who come to me are like 32 to 36, 38, 40, like in there, because they're starting to realize, oh, I'm running out of time I need, I need to deal with this. I'm getting older and I want a child. And what do I do about it? And I'm not in, like I said, I'm not in the business of solving your problems per se. Like that's not it. I'm in the business of let's look at what's going on underneath so that you can get the freedom. So then the other part of the question you asked me before was like, where do people get? What do they get out of it? So ultimately, my goal for all women goes along with the title of my book that I've been writing, which is, blow up your motherhood clock. It's finding joy with or without the baby.
Mm.
It's that the joy isn't about the baby. The joy is coming from within, and the baby is part of that. And the baby gets to come and be part of it. It's like parents, I love there are parents out there who go, we're not here to be there for our child. Our child becomes part of our family. Right. And so as a whole, that's how we look at our family versus we're doing everything for our child and the child's the center of the universe. I love that model. And I feel it's that's how I would like people to look at motherhood and parenthood.
I'm right with you on that
Mm,
because,
mhm,
yeah, your child doesn't run the family and they're a
mhm.
part of it.
Yeah,
We're all in this together. And
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're almost out of time, and I do want you to share with us what your offer is that you're giving to our viewers, because I
Mhm.
think this is the perfect time to talk about it.
Okay.
So please let us know. Please tell us.
Yeah, so it's a motherhood assessment. Basically, you get an opportunity. I have a whole lot of questions I love to ask, and you get an opportunity just to come and talk about where you're at with this part of your journey, how you think about motherhood. And then we walk through whether or not what your next step might be. Like, I want people to walk away with at least one next step. Uh, as much as would love to work with everybody, I know that it's not always the perfect fit. My goal in this is to gift something to anyone I meet with so that they can truly walk away with what they think they need to do for themselves in their life. And if it's for us to work together, great.
So if you could say, uh, if you are at a point in your life, and perhaps this age range that you've already
Mhm.
set for us, and are these women who are not mothers yet?
Yes, yes. People who are not mothers yet, usually. I mean, I could work with people who are mothers too if they want to work through, the
Sure.
messages that they're carrying. But usually it's women who are still not mothers. They know they want to be a mother, although I've also worked with women who are trying to decide whether or not they want to have children in their life. Um, but usually women who are mothers, or want, sorry, want to be mothers, women who um like I said, are in that 30-ish, but it doesn't matter. You could be younger. It just tends to be that. And I'm sorry, what was the exact question again? Like me.
Well, just so if somebody's listening, this is me. She's
Okay.
talking to me.
Oh, okay. Got it. Got it. Yes, yes. You are a career woman, usually. You're somebody who has thought about this over and over and over again, but for whatever reason, it just keeps getting pushed to the back of your mind, right? And there's a whole lot of reasons you have as to why it's not happening for you. Can't find the person. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I've heard those over and over again. And what if none of those are actually considerations? What if there's something else going on, right? And all those get to be reasons to stop you. So usually there's a stuckness of like, I want to move forward, but I can't. And I keep doing this and I keep putting the thoughts aside and I do nothing about it. So we get unstuck together.
Right. So I know we talked about early, what is a motherhood story?
Hmm.
Could it be, and I'm going to use this word again, what what could my motherhood story be? Right? Is that might be what somebody might, they're not saying that to themselves, but they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that could definitely be part of it. In my experience, I will say that most women who know they want to be moms already have some imagination going on as to what it's going to look like for them. Some feeling connected to it. Yeah. And one of the first things we do together is create a motherhood story vision where we actually, that's the basis of everything.
I love that.
Hmm.
I love that. Well, Beth, I just want to tell you what a pleasure it is that I've had spending time with you today. And I mean, I'm going to have so many more questions. And, and so, because I love the freedom part and the integrating all of everything to have
Mm-hmm.
that freedom
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
we could be at choice, which
Hmm.
is, like just like what you were talking about, to be at choice is a human experience.
It is. It really is. Yeah. Yeah. Can do we, I don't know if we have enough time. I
No,
just have
we're fine. Go ahead.
one little story around that. Like
Yes.
when I first in my life realized that point, and it's a really powerful story. So, I was very into prayer and meditation from like the age of 24. And I was in a space where I just felt led. Like I would come home from work and I would just go and like meditate. I would be on my lunch break, and it was just like this drive that was driving me in that moment, that it was all that I wanted to do. And there was a moment in in a morning where all of a sudden I got this like revelation inside. It was like very real, because I was only, the background is that I struggled a lot with depression. Every morning I would wake up and go, okay, this is going to be a bad day. This is going to be a good day. I just knew as soon as I woke up. And through all of that, I was sitting, and it hit me in that moment, like, you get to choose to not be depressed. And I was like, it like hit me. And but I had to get to the place. It's almost like all the things that were in there had to soften and be worn down, and until and be strong enough inside so I could choose that. So I do not in any want to make sure you know, I do not in any way say, oh, people can choose out of depression, because I don't believe that. For me in that moment, I was given the gift of being able to choose that. And from that moment forward, I was never as depressed in my life as I was in my 20s, and actually had started in my teens. So that's my experience of being able to choose. But I had to gain the freedom first, spiritually,
Mhm.
to then have the choice.
Mm. Well, I am so honored that you've felt willing to be so vulnerable and transparent
Mm,
sharing this story. Thank you so
thanks.
very much.
Thank you,
And
Tara.
yeah, so I
Thanks.
appreciate you being with us today and sharing, just a little bit of your wisdom. And
Mm,
I'm going to encourage everyone who, is in this part of their life to
mhm,
do the link below and take Beth's assessment. And, here's to changing, how we live our lives and to
mhm.
quit being a prisoner of, the beliefs and the stories that we have that
Yeah.
are started out here in the world.
Mhm.
They're externally sourced. Let's, come inside and feel the wholeness of who we are, right?
Yeah. 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 Thank you, Tara. So
No.
great. So awesome just to talk about it with you. Thank you.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So,
Mhm.
so thank you again.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I'll see you. Bye.
Be sure to join us next time, where we continue to cultivate feminine power, explore potential, and provide information and tools to elevate your life. In the meantime, visit our website at thefemininewave.org or follow us on our YouTube channel at The Feminine Wave to watch other episodes, share what resonated from today's episode, and suggest future topics. Your feedback is imperative in helping reach more women seeking to reclaim their essence. Until then, catch the swell of the feminine wave and continue creating the life you deserve. This is Tara Becker signing off. Take care, and we'll see you on the airwaves.